moms, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Joy, and guys, I have so much to talk about when it comes to this big boy press conference that Biden put on. If you saw it last night, and if you haven't, make sure and go see my recap of it. I reacted to the whole thing, and we had a lot of fun because he did a lot of, he'd get real low and creepy whispers. Did a lot of creepy whispers, yeah. So we had some fun with that. There was a point he almost picked his nose. I was rooting for him. I said, get in there and dig for that gold. He didn't though, and that was kind of upsetting for me, but it was still a wonderful crap show. Now, there's one thing that I have found that I can't yet find the news reporting on, which I think is really interesting, and I think needs more credibility and credence to it. I think we need to talk about it more. And if you guys saw the title of my video, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And that is that they were asking Biden, and they were calling Biden out about the fact that he only has hours. It's come out, his staff says he's only good between the hours of 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. And that when all these gaffes started really coming to light within the debate, that apparently he got on calls with his donors and with also Senate, with the Congress. And he basically, to try to calm all the fears, he said, hey guys, don't worry, I'm gonna sleep more. I'm gonna stop everything by 8 p.m. It's gotten a lot of criticism. In fact, in like the other press conferences with his press secretary, they've talked about this Kareem Jean-Pierre, and they've called her out saying, so after 8 p.m., who's president? What happens? To which, and you should see her face, she looks defeated. She's so irritated by this question, but she basically says, there is a dedicated person who will tell him what's going on, and then he will get back to us in the morning. So we still, from the hours of what, 8 p.m. to 10 a.m., don't have a president? So this was brought up during the debate, and guys, the response is telling, and to me it's indicative of, I don't know if I can say the word, physical, mental, emotional, not niceness. I want you to take a look at this, and then we're going to discuss.
As a follow-up, sir,
here we go.
Your Vice President Kamala Harris would be ready to serve on day one. Can you elaborate on that? What is it about her attributes and her accomplishments over the last 4 years that make her ready to serve on day one if necessary?
First of all, the way she's handled the issue of freedom of women's bodies to have control of their bodies. Secondly, her ability to handle almost any issue on the board. This was a hell of a prosecutor. She was a first-rate person, and in the Senate, she was really good. I wouldn't have picked her unless I thought she was qualified to be president. From the very beginning, I made no bones about that. She is qualified to be president. That's why I picked her. Felicia Schwartz, Financial Times.
Thank you, Mr. President. Presidency is the most straining job in the world, and it's 24/7. How can you say you'll be up for that next year, in 2 years, in 4 years, given the limits you've acknowledged that you have today?
Yes.
The limits I've acknowledged I have?
There's been reporting that you've acknowledged that you need to go to bed earlier and your evening around 8.
That's not true. Look.
Here we go.
What I said was, instead of my every day starting at 7 and going to bed at midnight, it'd be smarter for me to pace myself a little more. And I said, for example, the 8, 7, 6 stuff, instead of starting the fundraiser at 9 o'clock, start at 8 o'clock. People get to go home by 10 o'clock. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about, and if you looked at my schedule since I made that stupid mistake in the campaign, in the debate. I mean, my schedule has been full bore. I've done, where's Trump been? Riding around in his golf cart, filling out his scorecard before he hits the ball?
Letting you self-destruct.
I mean, look.
As he should.
He's done virtually nothing.
He's been smart. PR.
And I have, I don't know how many, don't hold me to it, roughly 20 major events. Some with thousands of people showing up.
Thousands.
And so I just think it's better. I always have an inclination, whether I was playing sports or doing politics, just to keep going, not stop. I just got to just pace myself a little more. Pace myself. And the next debate, I'm not going to be traveling into 15 time zones a week before.
You had a week.
Anyway, that's what it was about. That's what it was about. And by the way, even with that, I love my staff, but they add things. Add things all the time. At the very end, I'm catching hell from my wife for that. Anyway, I'm sorry, Zeke Miller.
But we're not done, guys. He also then says this about his staff.
Haley Bull, Scripps. Or no, Josh Weingrove, I'm sorry, was the next one. I'll do 2 more questions.
Poor guy. I just feel bad for him.
Thank you, Mr. President. Many of your colleagues, Democrats on the Hill, are watching tonight as they assess what they want to say about your candidacy. I'm wondering how you're thinking of this right now. It seems like your answer is clear, but they're watching how things go tonight, tomorrow in Michigan, next week in Texas and Nevada. Are you thinking that way about whether how the next week or 2 goes would inform you?
Am I using that way, you say?
Are you thinking that way about how the next 2 weeks go? Will that affect your decision, or are you fully determined on running in November as the party's nominee?
I'm determined on running, but I think it's important that I lay fears by let them see me out there. Let me see them out, you know.
He lays fears. You lay fears to rest. Well, I think it's important that I lay fear. So you think it's important that you allow people to be more fearful by seeing you more. Are these like little Floydian, did you hear me? Are these Freudian slips we're hearing? Is that what this is?
For the longest time it was, you know, Biden's not prepared to sit with us unscripted. Biden's not prepared to.
You're not.
You know, anyway. And so what I'm doing is what I've been doing. I think we've done over 20 major events, from Wisconsin to North Carolina to to demonstrate that I'm going out in the areas where we think we can win, where we can persuade people to move our way, or people are already there. And here, look, the other thing is, we have the most extensive campaign organization of anybody's had in a long, long time.
Have you?
We have well over 1,000 volunteers.
1,000?
Knocking on doors, making phone calls, making tens of thousands of phone calls. We have headquarters, I forget exactly how many, I want to cite a number and then find out I'm off, but we have scores of headquarters in all the...
Did you catch that? I don't want to cite a number and then find out I'm off. I think translation, he's caught a lot of crap for saying the wrong things. He'll mix up thousands, millions, billions, trillions. He keeps mixing up facts and data, and I think, again, he is slowly showing what's going on to all of us. We have to pick up on all of these social cues. We have to pick up on all these little things he's saying. The barriers in his brain of what information to disseminate, to say and not say, those keep crumbling. So he's going to start telling the truth, which is what we're hearing. So let's keep going.
The toss-up states, we're organized, we're moving, and that's awful hard to replace in the near term. And so, and here's the other thing. I was in the Senate a long time. Very proud of what I've done in the Senate. I was chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee for a long time, and I was chairman or ranking member and chairman of the Judiciary Committee. I'm going to be going down to the Johnson Library. Anyway, I'm going to be going around making the case of the things that I think we have to finish and how we can't afford to lose what we've done or backslide on civil rights, civil liberties, women's rights. There's that little button we have. Control guns, not girls. I mean, the idea we're sitting around, this is where Kamala's so good as well. We're sitting around. More children are killed by a bullet than any other cause of death.
Get them.
The United States of America. What the hell are we doing?
Go get them.
What are we doing? We got a candidate saying, promise the NRA, don't worry, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to do anything.
Irrational anger out of nowhere.
You got a Supreme Court that is what you might call the most conservative court in American history. This is ridiculous. There's so much we can do still.
Well, dementia fist.
I'm determined to get it done.
I'm surprised you put it down.
It's about freedom. And by the way, I'll end this. Well, I'm not going to do that. Haley has to come up too. But I remember I made a speech on democracy in Philadelphia at Independence Hall. And I'm not being critical, just observing. The bulk of the press said, what the hell is he talking about that for? Democracy. You did. Democracy's not an issue. Democracy's not an issue. Except the polling data showed 60% of the people knew I was right, thought I was right. I'm not asking you a question. You don't have to answer, obviously. But do you think our democracy is under siege based on this court? Do you think democracy is under siege based on Project 2025? Do you think he means what he says when he says he's going to do away with the civil service, eliminate the Department of Education, make sure, I mean, we've never been here before. And that's the other reason why I didn't, you say, hand off to another generation. I've got to finish this job. I've got to finish this job because there's so much at stake.
We've had some discussions over the past few days with your press secretary about the question of health exams. And you said you take a cognitive test every day in this job. Are you open to taking another physical or test before the election? Governor Whitmer of Michigan, for instance, said it wouldn't hurt to take a test.
Well, look, two things. One, I've taken 3 significant and intense neurological exams by a neurologist.
There we go.
In each case, as recently as February. And they say I'm in good shape, okay?
Great.
Although I do have a little problem with my left foot because it's not as sensitive because I broke my foot and didn't wear the boot. But
nobody's concerned about that.
But I'm good. I'm tested every single day about my neurological capacity, the decisions I make every day.
I literally have a memorized.
Talk to my staff. All of you talk to my staff. Sometimes my staff talks a lot. But the fact of the matter is, I don't think you have them telling you that all the major ideas we've undertaken haven't been in part initiated by me. I remember with the staff, I said, I'm going to go to South Korea. We're going to get the chip. What are you doing? I'm going to get Japan and Korea back together again after essentially having hostilities toward one another since the end of World War II. I'm going to move and see that we can expand it. You know, the only thing age does is help you with it. Creates a little bit of wisdom if you pay attention.
It doesn't create a stutter.
And so the point I'm making is, I think it's important that if the neurologist tells me he thinks I need another exam, and by the way, I've laid every bit of the record out. I hadn't hidden a thing. You ought to ask Trump for his, okay? I laid it all out.
Let's put them out.
And every single day I'm surrounded by good docs. If they think there's a problem, I promise you, or even if they don't think it's a problem, they think I should have a neurological exam again, I'll do it. But no one's suggesting that to me now. And I'll ask you another question. No matter what I did, no one's going to be satisfied. Did you have 7 docs? Did you have 2?
Well, you've been lying.
What did you have? Did you do this? How many times did you? So.
As somebody who's been on social media and been popular at different times, he's not wrong in that when there start to be theories about you, I've been through this, it doesn't matter what you've put out. I've had people say I've lied about my medical history and talking about my health. And I have put out my medical records. I have put out, anytime I've said I have something, I have put it out. And people didn't care. They wanted to run with theories. Now, I'm not saying that that's the case here. In this case, we have been blatantly gaslit and lied to, verifiably. And we can't get straight answers. It's very different. I always try to be fair when I report, and I do want to say there is an element where he's correct about how people are like this. However, he's created this situation. Now, in my case, you could have said you shouldn't have talked about your health, but number one, that's not for anybody else to decide. I've never taken a donation, never asked for anything. I've just talked about my health journey and what I'm doing. I have every right to do it, and it does open you up to criticism. But that's just the name of the game. Here, though, the reason people are going after him, the reason is because he and his staff and the White House have been lying to us, and the left, the Democrats, they've all been lying to us for so long about this. This is on him. This is on him. This is happening because of him, and now he's probably right. Nobody will be satisfied because we can't trust anything you say because you're a liar. So he's not wrong, but he's not right.
I am not opposed. If my doctors tell me I should have another neurological exam, I'll do it. But that's where I am.
All right, guys, there are several pieces of abuse we need to go over here. I'm not sure if I can say the word. I might get in trouble. I hope not. We'll see if I can put up this video. So, and sound up in the comments and let me know if you caught them along the way. So in this, let's try to start from the beginning. So first, when it comes to his schedule, they called him out about, can you really do this with your limitations? And he looked very confused. What limitations? I did think it was interesting because how is he not aware of what's being said? But he's also said, I only know the press is speaking badly about me. Yes, but aren't people briefing you on what's being said and how to deal with it? So your staff, your people, nobody is... I think it, and we've heard this. We've heard that Hunter has come into play. Hunter's sitting in on all the meetings, has access to all the classified stuff. He and Jill, and they're the gatekeepers to him. So I wonder if they're the ones actually giving him info, and they're not really giving the info because he seemed to have no idea about this question. And then he goes on to say, oh, well, yeah, I've just been doing a lot. Trump does nothing. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Trump doing nothing is a brilliant move. Trump's biggest thing is he needs to take a step back. In this situation, Trump and his team knows this guy is unraveling. If he comes at him too hard and too aggressive, he just looks like a bully and they can use that against him. So instead, and this is a thing that people say, it's when your enemy's destroying themselves, don't interrupt them. So he's letting Biden destroy himself and he doesn't have to do any work. Biden's doing all the work for him and Biden is too unaware. He has no self-awareness to understand that. So for him, it's more like, look, I'm working harder and Trump isn't working. No, Trump is being smart and conserving his energy. You don't just want a president going full steam ahead and messing everything up. You need somebody who knows how to do time management, energy conservation, time conservation, which I'm not sure that he does, and maybe he can't because he doesn't have the proficiency to do that mentally, or just because he physically just doesn't really have the energy to do so. But the fact that he seemed surprised by that question, I thought was telling, and that they're not being honest with him, number one. Number two, did you hear him? He throws his staff under the bus. He throws his staff under the bus. He just blamed blatantly, not in one place, but that's why I wanted to show the other one, 2 places. My staff likes to talk. Have you noticed with him and his administration, it's everybody else's fault. Everything is everybody else's fault. And now the people that are protecting him, and I would even say are risking not just their political careers to do that, but I'm wondering, are they going to get any criminal or civil charges? Because when all this is done, are we going to be having hearings about his fitness to do anything and who's been covering it up? They are literally putting their lives on the line for this guy who is now saying that. Now, here's the other thing. We do know he's aware of some of it, him saying that my staff talks. We think, now we know his staff and the people around him, they've been talking, and he's not wrong in that. They've been leaking information on what's happening. Is he confirming that he knows about the leaks and they're correct? I'm not saying that's happening, but so you know enough to know that your staff has been leaking some information, but now you're blaming them and calling them liars, just like now your donors are the elites and they're horrible people. It's everyone else's fault. And you know, and again, I love my boomers who watch me, so understand, you guys individually, I'm not calling you out, but I am going to call out the negative characteristics of the generation you're in. But most of you who watch me, I know that you aren't part of this. But one of the toxic boomer traits that many boomers have is they can't ever take responsibility or accept blame for anything, because they don't ever want to face consequences. So you've seen those old sitcoms, even like in the 80s, 90s, where something happens and everybody starts finger pointing on whose fault it is, and everybody starts arguing about whose fault it is, and nobody wants to take any responsibility for a co-created situation. And that's what we're seeing here, in my opinion. But he doesn't just do it once, he does it twice. Twice he does it. But then, did you hear what he said about it? He said, he then looks over and says, I'm catching HELL from Jill about saying this, so I should stop talking. Starts looking terrified, looks down. Sorry. Guys, what we saw, I think we saw 2 things. We saw Jill Biden. He outed the fact that Jill Biden, I think, is verbally, at the bare minimum, behind closed doors, she's verbally and emotionally not nice. Please infer. The A word that I'm not sure that I can say. I think that he gets reamed when he makes mistakes. And I wonder, through that kind-looking exterior that Jill has, the I'm a teacher exterior, right? I'm just here to make a difference. Is she, he said, I'm catching HELL is what he said. If he's catching that in public and he knows it, what goes on in private? Number two, the fact that he's so willing to blame his staff, and it sounds like the people around him are, and they did. The first debate, they blamed staff. They blamed everybody. They blamed makeup. They blamed lighting. They blamed everybody. Is it not just him catching HELL? Is it the staff? And I wonder if we're going to have more reports come out. And this was also such a horrible move to do, because now the staff is going to talk even more. The staff is going to be even more amped up to say something, because they're getting thrown under the bus when they know how much they're sacrificing for this man. I would love to know from the staff how they are really being treated. And I think, like I said earlier when I was pointing out certain things he said, it is important. It is important that we look way deep into what is saying, because you guys could say I'm looking too deep into this. I think we're looking too much at the surface. Us not looking deep enough is exactly why we're in the position we're in right now, with him malfunctioning all over the place. We weren't looking, we weren't paying attention, and it's time to pay attention. So I'm afraid this man, it's more than just Elder A word. It's maybe this just goes on, period, between him and Jill and Hunter. And how far-reaching does it extend? We know it's going on by the simple fact, as we've heard him talk about his cognitive tests. Jill has even said, she said, I'm not getting him a doctor for that. He doesn't need it. And yet the Parkinson's doctor has been there like 10 times in the last year. And we're supposed to believe, oh, that was just for Walter Reed and other people. And look, maybe it was. I'm not saying it wasn't. But at this point, the problem is we can't trust anything. So at this point, we're open to believing anything. And he is in a very unsafe spot because of that. But I am very, very concerned. Nobody is getting him medical help. And when he does mess up, he's catching HELL. Think about this. I want you to think a cancer patient who can't function. Maybe a cancer patient who wets themselves, a cancer patient who needs help walking, instead is having somebody be physically, mentally, emotionally not nice to them because of their physical ailment. We need to look at this situation in a similar light. And I know I'm disabled. I have days where my cognitive abilities are horrible. I have days where I didn't... Guys, the reason I go back and forth on going on YouTube is because physically I can't always do it. I'm now in the best position I have been physically to be able to keep up with this and build this the way that I need to. And I've had people around me who didn't believe me or literally were physically, mentally, emotionally not nice to me because of my physical limitations. And I'm worried that's what's happening. I don't know. What do you guys think? What do you think about everything I've shared? What do you think about all this? Tell me your thoughts, guys. Sound off in the comments. If you like content like this, make sure and subscribe, hit notifications. I'm going to have more, and leave me a like. Everything helps. All right, guys, this one a little bit dark, but we need to look at it. We need to look at it, because when we can look at the dark and be brave enough to, we can shine a light on it and become the light. Isn't that the whole point? All right, guys, until the next video, I'm giving you all hugs, kisses, stay safe, and I will see you soon.